I think we can edit.
I know, but like this is kind of fun to add.
Start it over.
Matt, how are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Happy
Coming
to be
in
alive.
clear case. How are we feeling?
I feel like my mic's way further away from my mouth than your guys's.
Yeah, you
Does it
want to
look
act
that way?
like you're in a helicopter. No, that's good.
Helicopter's like right in your mouth and you're yelling.
Matt's is way further away,
It's out
Yeah.
there.
and yet he's loud.
Sounds
just-
good.
Yeah,
Do I
Brian?
sound good?
I just have a mic voice.
Chitty, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
I feel like Brian's a little quiet.
I'm quiet. There we go.
Yeah, Brian
Yeah.
just joined
There
the
he
podcast.
is.
Heyo.
Oh, snap.
Does that make it official, Logue?
That makes it official. Brian, bring us in. Bring us in, Brian.
Once we hear that, we know it's business.
Time to get serious, guys. Welcome back to the Hushlife podcast. It has been, dare I say, a minute. What's
minute.
what's the reasoning behind the distance in our podcasts?
I would say this. I mean, we obviously get busy. Podcasting isn't our number one form of communication, but it should be. We just got done with an expo just over a month ago. We got some great feedback of people saying that they really love the podcast. They listen to them. If it's on YouTube or on another podcasting hosting site, they like them. They enjoy them. And so we're going to be more committed to doing them. I think the last one we did when we were in New Mexico, which was in October.
Yeah.
This is where I'm at. We're a team of five guys, 5 normal guys, and we got a lot of stuff on our plate sometimes, and we got to make priorities for our podcasting folks.
Let's do a little recap. How's life, Logan?
Well, everybody, I am father of 2 now, which we went from a solid zone defense to a straight man coverage, and it's been a complete.
Wait a timeout. Did you get that backwards? Isn't it weren't you man-to-man with the first one?
No,
Now
we
you're
were
running
zone. It's just whoever's in our zone.
Yeah,
Beckham's in our
2-on-1.
zone.
Okay.
It's whoever can cover him. Now we're man coverage. I'm on Beckham, covering him.
Okay.
Morgan's on Brooks.
Brand new baby boy.
Yep, brand new baby boy, doing real healthy. It's definitely a change, but I love it. I mean, it's coming around, and it's been great.
No lies. How's he sleeping?
Lack of sleep. It's been rough.
Logan,
You're only into this less than a month.
Yeah. I don't know anybody out there listening or you guys. Have you ever done dishes at 3:30 in the morning just because you're trying to comfort a baby and you're just so bored out of your mind trying to help him, and he finally gets good and it's like, well, there's dishes. So you're doing dishes and holding a newborn baby. I experienced that recently.
Ultimate dad life. I
Yeah,
like it.
Real dad life. I need to get me a pair of New
Here's the
Balances.
thing that when we were going through the stages of having kids, and people would tell me this, and I called BS on it. I call BS on it now. People would be like, "Oh man, 2's way easier than 1." And you're still new into it.
Yeah.
You're only a couple weeks. Supposedly, people would be like, "Oh, if you have 2 toddlers, it's easier than having 1 toddler because they keep each other busy." I never experienced that. I think that's BS.
Yeah, well, we're still in the phase right now where my 1 toddler, my 2-year-old. So I got a 2-year-old and a 2-week-old. And my 2-year-old wants to play and hang all the time, which has been, honestly, it's been a blessing in disguise because me and my 2-year-old been hanging out every day. And we've kind of grown together more so than ever before because I've had that opportunity to take him to the jump houses, take him to the zoo, and every time we're in my truck, I play a new genre of music and see what he kind of bobs his head to the most. He's really into alternative punk. Fun fact.
I love it.
Blink 182, Beckham's just bobbing and weaving with his head.
I like
yeah.
that.
So it's been nice spending more time with him. I wouldn't say it's easier at all right now, but I'm sure when the newborn's 2 years old and Beckham's 4, then it'll be they're playing together. In the
It's just
backyard
going to be
and all
rough
that.
house nonstop.
Yeah, two Butler boys especially.
2 Butler boys that close together.
That's what our oldest brother texted me actually when I sent the picture out to the family. He said, "The Earth just got 1 more Butler heavier." I said that couldn't be any more true. But no, it's been good, man. So I've been kind of coping with that. Kind of been on a hiatus a tiny bit from Hush in the last 2 weeks, just dealing with that. But this is my first trip out with you guys. I think this is our first trip camping out overnight.
This year, yeah.
Yeah, it's been.
At least us. Matty
Yeah.
Ice, on the other hand, been on a few campouts.
yeah, I've been out with Eric chasing some sheds. Been grinding out there. I mean, we went on a 7-day bender off in some crazy country looking for elk sheds. And, Logan not getting much sleep. My pad popped on the last trip and laid there listening to Eric snore for 2 nights while I'm freezing my butt off. Not getting much sleep, but yeah.
So, Matt, real quick on the pad. Was that an oversight of gear on your part? Like it was ready for some repair and you neglected it, or was this pure happenstance on the trip?
Pure happenstance. Like, it's a manufacturer error. Like, the places the holes were in. So just picture the pad being a waffle, right? It has concaves and convex, or I don't know, peaks and valleys, right? The places you would think a hole would be on the peaks, right? The most part of the pad that protrudes the farthest to the ground.
Gets touched the most.
It gets touched the most. All of the holes were in the valleys on seams. So I'd patch one because I had patch kit and tape called tenacious tape, which is like perfect for down jackets or anything. This stuff's amazing. And I'd patch one and it would slowly leak somewhere else. So I have a clip of me laying my pad out on the ground, having my water bottle filling all these little valleys, which there was like 100, and watching where the water was bubbling, drying it off, cleaning it, patching it. Then I'd fill it up again and the air would leak out of another spot. So it was just, I don't know, the pad's fairly new. It was an expensive
Yeah, how many
pad.
times have you used this pad?
Probably 15, 20 times.
That many times? Is this the first time you had a problem with it?
Yeah, because I always take like a footprint, like ground tarp that I put below my my tent's floor. So I have like 2 or 3 layers before even my pad. I'm pretty OCD about cleaning my tent site because I don't want to pop my pad or.
But you're
rip
saying
my tent.
they came from the top.
Yeah,
Right?
did you take your pocket knife out
No,
of your pocket?
it's from the
before you went to
bottom
bed?
side of the
Oh,
pad.
the bottom side of the pad.
Yeah, but it's like in the valleys. I just had to show you a picture, but it was frustrating.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, the last night I finally got it like where it would last about 2 hours of air. I'd get comfy, warm, fall asleep, and wake up with my back like frozen and aching because I was just on the hard, cold ground. I'd roll off my pad, blow it back up, fall back asleep. Yeah, it was
Sounds like
rough.
a workout, bro.
My suggestion would be find another pad.
Yeah, so looking into other pad brands.
I feel like
currently.
though, like you showed me the video, it's one of those ultralight,
It is.
thin
It is.
pads that you would expect that to happen to.
Technically, yeah. I mean, it's one of the lightest pads, and it's got the highest R value. So it's like a
R value.
What are we doing
it's
now?
insulation
ounces.
value.
It's a 4-season
Listen, guys,
pad.
Matt is our resident gear expert on the team.
Yeah.
By far and away, he geeks out, researches, investigates, tests more gear than anybody combined. And so he knows what he's talking about.
Well, obviously didn't do a good job
But
on that pad.
He didn't pick a great one.
Yeah, I'm real bummed on that one. Let's just say this certain manufacturer, the reason I bought it was this sleeping pad will slide perfectly in the back of the sleeping bag.
You just gave it away.
I just know what brand it is already.
You
now.
know,
you
because
really
I'm a
do.
side
Yeah.
sleeper and I always roll off my pad, you know? So, I don't know. Got to look for the same pad with the same dimensions because I love my sleeping bag. So,
Maybe a little bit sturdier, though, of a pad.
Yeah, I'll
Sounds
carry-
like you kind of bought the wrong,
I'll
too
carry an
lightweight.
extra 2 to 4 ounces to have a
I think
bigger
that pad's
pad.
meant for people that are like backpacking on the beach, maybe.
Probably.
So, aside from the pad, give people a sneak peek, and by peek, I mean talk to them about what they should expect for upcoming shed tour season.
Yeah, so Shed Tour, the first video will be up April 5th. And it's going to be a good one, guys. This first episode, Eric has a banner day. Probably the best episode of Shed Tour in the last 2 or 3. Like, Eric went on a crazy hike, ended up finding 12 sheds. I think he found 5 browns. And he came back to camp and just crushed me. I found 4 sheds that day, 2 chalks, a couple hard whites. But this season's going to be awesome, guys. We got new cameras talking about gear tech, so I love the image quality. The audio is better than ever. We got some new spots that we've been able to find and do some research on with some bigger caliber bulls. And let's just say I found my best set ever, my best brown set ever, and the footage is awesome. We've had a cool bear encounter, some cool things. So it's definitely not your typical shed hunting video, but at the same time, it's a pretty bomber shed hunting video. Like,
What's the favorite thing about going on these shed hunts and the least favorite thing? I kind of already know the least, but I want you to tell the people.
so my favorite thing about these shed hunts is going out, seeing new country, testing new gear, just honestly being out in the woods and just seeing new places, finding new things. You never know what you're going to find shed hunting. So that's my favorite part about these shed trips. My least favorite thing would probably be the length of the trips, or like the intensity of the trips. Like, anybody who
You just threw me for a curveball.
Whoa,
I thought for sure you were going to say dinner.
the food.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I think
I
that
would
was
agree.
coming. I felt that coming.
The
But
food.
I think you should go back to the intensity thing, because you guys go harder than anybody. And there's been a lot of backlash on Instagram almost, where it's like, leave some for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Tell them why you're picking them up so much.
So-
how much sweat equity are you putting into these horns?
Dude, I actually have a clip in one of the shed tour videos just honestly speaking truth to the people, because I was that guy that would religiously watch these shed tour videos just like dreaming.
Must
like,
be
must be nice. If I had
like you.
if I had that shed spot, I would find way more sheds than Eric. like he's just got a good spot. He lucked into a good spot, blah blah blah. But the thing is, with Eric and with sheds, this guy honestly just goes full crazy mode, crazy in his eyes, and he will work and hike harder than any person I've ever been around. And we'll average 3 to 4 miles, a lot of times 5 miles, 5 to 6 per decent antler.
And that's so hard to understand from the perspective of viewers on Instagram.
Yeah.
But you are truly the cliche.
Yep.
Miles for
miles.
piles.
Yeah, they're only seeing highlights, and that's what I said in this clip was
Just bring a hashtag into this conversation.
Hashtag.
I like it.
It's that cliche. It's the biggest thing. Is the biggest truths are hidden behind those little cliches. But 4 to 5 miles
And
between.
this-
And it's not like easy country, obviously.
No, you guys, I pride myself in being able to be like, yeah, I feel like I can hike and hunt any country. I can hike. I feel confident in myself and my abilities. This stuff after day 4, 5, 6, and you're climbing 2,000 to 3,000 feet a day and losing that same amount with little water. You have to drop clear to the bottom of the canyons to get water. It's just, it wears you down, and you're walking in a lot of rock slides and stuff. Like, you will tear through a good pair of boots quicker than you can imagine. And it's just...
Have you ever thought about, so you're a couple miles deep from the Can-Am
Yeah.
at this point. You guys set up like a spike camp on your backs. Have you ever thought about just keeping your camp on your back?
Yes and no. So, like Brian said, me being a gear junkie, I feel like my camp setup is about as light as you can go while having a tent, because we have been snowed on and rained on almost every time we go out there, so you need a tent. I feel like I am to that point where it's like I can't go much lighter. I take a floorless teepee a lot of times and use my trekking pole as the center pole. So I mean, I'm taking a 8-ounce tarp basically that I'm sleeping under, and it's still just that extra weight and load on your back that when you're walking on these crazy steep inclines and rocks and boulder fields, that you're just that much more clumsy, and you just feel like the odds of rolling your ankle or like falling are so much greater when you have an additional 15 to 30 pounds on your back.
I just walked myself through that question I just asked you. That makes no sense, because the reason why you probably have a spike camp is because you go out for the day, find your 4 or 5 sheds, which weigh what?
Normally, like a good elk shed, 7 to 10 pounds.
So you have 28, 30 extra pounds. And then if you have your camp on, every day you're just adding to that. But the way you guys do it is you have a spike camp. You go out and find your 30 pounds of sheds, go back to
Stash 'em.
spike camp, stash them at camp, and then go out again.
It's
Yep.
that stash pile.
It makes sense. I just had to walk myself through that.
Yeah, I mean, shed hunting's so interesting because when you think of it kind of just like a fun activity that should not be that much effort. And that's what I think a lot of people have the misconception with Eric shed hunting is you guys are just imagining yourselves just doing that leisure weekend shed hunt where you drive, park somewhere, and you're immediately hiking into shed country. This is like you drive somewhere, hike 4 miles, drop 2,000 feet of elevation, hike another mile, set up, and then you hike several miles from there into shed country. So it's just like...
So hold up. So you're telling me what people see on Instagram isn't as easy as you make it look like?
What? That makes no sense.
That's crazy.
Instagram's the truth, dude.
That's
Dude,
crazy.
everything you see is real.
I have always encouraged Eric. I'm like, dude, you need to keep just like a mileage tracker. He saves every track on OnX, so like that would be relatively easy to compile. But really, over the course of a shed season, how many miles did you hike, and then how many elk antlers did you find? Because he's really focused on elk antlers,
Yeah.
more than deer antlers. And what is like the mile per antler,
So
that's a great like RPM,
right? Because
mile per.
it's a great KPI,
I would say ROI.
That
return
too.
on investment.
We
That
could
too.
use some business slang
There's
here.
a lot of acronyms that could go into, but again, like you see like a reel on Instagram or like a YouTube video where the perception is, wow, absolutely crushed it. But you don't necessarily see like all the effort, energy, miles that went into finding them, and it's not really what it's perceived to be.
Not at all. So I can speak because I was talking to my brother about this. I sent him pictures. He's like, bro, you guys have the best spot. You guys crush it. I'm like, dude, we hiked 7 days straight. We slept on the dirt 7 nights. And we did like 85 miles in 7 days. And we packed out 30 sheds between 2 of us. So I don't even... 85 miles for 30 keeper horns. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not great.
I think a lot of people on Instagram and that view our stuff and view that kind of stuff would be surprised to hear that mile per antler KPI.
For
yeah,
sure.
and it's not like
So you tell me that again. How many miles? 80 miles in how many days?
85 miles in 7 days.
And you got 30 antlers.
Packed 30. We probably found 50 to 60, like chalks and hard whites and stuff that we didn't want to pack out. But we packed 30 to the truck.
So let's do the math. 80 miles for 30 sheds. I'm coming up with...
Just over 3.
Yeah.
No, just under 3.
Just under 3. So just under a shed for 3 miles. Yeah, 2.8 miles
Yeah.
per
2.8
shed.
miles
under
per
3.
shed.
And that would be classified as a pretty dang good trip.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's like the second best trip Eric's ever had in that certain area.
But that's the thing, though, right? Like, they see pictures and videos of backpacks full when you're racking out of there, and they're like, oh, dude, they crushed it. That's the zone. Like, if I could hunt there. Think about that. 85 miles on your boots.
That's just me. So Eric did
Yeah.
85 too.
So technically, if you added those together, you're looking at 170 miles.
So
That
divide that by
changes.
2.
Yeah, that changes a lot of things.
yeah,
That's
so I
like
didn't even think-
1.4. No, that's 4 point...
yeah,
5.6, that's
5.6
right.
So imagine
miles per keeper shed.
2.8
So if you're
times
listening to this
2.
at home and you're shed hunting and you walk almost 6 miles and you find one shed, hey, you're doing as good as the Hush Boys.
And
you
it's
just gotta
not.
have time to do 100 and something miles.
You have to-
170 miles.
You have to think about it. It's not the type of country where you can hike 3 miles an hour, because like a groomed trail, like not crazy steep country, you can hike 3 miles an hour. This stuff is like grueling 0.8 miles per hour, 1 mile an hour, and that's me and Eric hoofing it in some of this stuff. It is steep,
That's
rocky.
what's crazy about your story is a lot of guys go out and they can sit in glass sheds. This country, you guys shed hunt. You're not glassing sheds. The grass is too high, especially this year.
Yep.
Where they didn't get enough snow to lay the grass down. And so you're not glassing sheds and being like, all right, I got 4, I'm going to go find them. You're walking all day, which is a telltale sign of how rough the country is,
Yeah, man,
to find those sheds.
I love shed hunting, but I do not love it enough to do that for 7 days straight like Eric does. Like, he is passionate. If anybody sees him and thinks he's fake by any stretch of the imagination, you don't know Eric, and you don't know Eric's addiction to shed hunting, because this guy literally will drive 18 hours through the night, then hike in 6 miles to a spot and hike all day without sleep just to maybe find 2 or 3 sheds. Like, it's just bonkers.
Well, who else do you know
Nobody.
that is willing to backpack, first and foremost, to a shed camp to go then hike more miles to go and shed hunt. Most shed hunters, it's a pretty leisurable thing, I think.
Yep.
It's like a weekend thing. You take your boys out on Saturday, you go park your truck, you go up on some hills, there may be some
Come back
holes.
to the truck.
Come back to the truck, go to the next spot, you do that for a few hours, and you're out. You guys did this for 7 days, backpacking the whole time. And then after driving, 12, 15 hours to get to the spot, and you do it for 7 straight days.
Yeah, man.
No one else is doing that.
Well, and the people that are, they're successful. Like, I know of a handful of people that are doing this, and I mean, they're just cleaning house, but it's not what 99.9% of people think shed hunting is.
Yeah, it goes back to that phrase, you got to pay to play, right?
Yep.
The other thing I see is like when you backpack into a zone like you guys do, and the other people that are successful that do the same thing, it's just like that cliche in fishing. If you want to catch a fish, your line's got to be in the water.
Yep.
When you're backpacking in, you're in shed country. So it's not like you're making that transition back to the truck or anything. You're backpacked in. You're in shed country, like hiking in. You might find a shed hiking in. You're in the zone all day, all night for 7 days. And that's, you're shed hunting as much as you can.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in the best position to find a shed.
Exactly.
At all times.
Just to put it out here, Eric's not currently on the podcast because guess what? No surprise, he's shed hunting. So it's the rest of us holding down the fort. We're in Casey's jumping jack. If you hear a little background noise, it's just because the wind's blowing in southeast Idaho at about 20, 30 knots. That is the welcoming party to southeast Idaho. But we did a cool thing today with the help of some incredible people, and it's something that I hope we can do more of. But when we started the business, the Hush brand, years ago, some of you will be familiar with this, some of you may not. But we started it, and we wanted to figure out, like, what's the why? Like, why are we doing this? And we centered on 3 main pillars of why we wanted to start this business. So the first one was to inspire new hunters and anglers, hopefully get people excited to get outside. Maybe they've never hunted or fished before. Maybe they used to. Maybe they currently do, and they just enjoy watching stuff. The second one was to give back, mostly like in our local community, but just be good stewards, be good community members, try to help when we could, regardless of like whatever this business turned into. And then the third was to raise awareness about conservation, habitat issues, and also hunting access stuff. And so this thing that we just finished up doing falls into the third pillar, and it was derived from an idea from a long-time partnership that we've had with our friends at First Light, which dates back to like 2012, 2013, so a lot of years. They've always had like a really strong ethos on conservation, on doing good things for the hunting community. And
they have a program called on their website called Roundup for Conservation.
That's right.
They've been doing
They
that
do.
for years.
Yep.
And so when you purchase anything from the First Light website, you get an option of rounding up to the nearest dollar. So if you have something, you order something and it's $102.80, you have an opportunity to round up. So it's $103. You basically commit like 20 cents to conservation. They've been doing that forever.
And they'll have times of the year where they'll match the roundup stuff too. But they've just, like when Ken and Scott founded the company many years ago in 2007, they've just always been committed to doing good things with regards to conservation and habitat. And so we've been talking with those guys for a long time. They know our pillars, our foundation, what's important to us. And a year ago, we came out near the First Light headquarters and participated in one of these events with a bunch of folks from the First Light office, and also in collaboration with the Idaho Department of Fish and Game. And we basically planted 1,600 sagebrush saplings up near their headquarters in Haley, Idaho. And that kind of like was like the final straw of figuring out like, okay, how do we take our vision on a few ideas centered around conservation and habitat management and parlay it with what we just learned here. And so we met one of the biologists who was amazing, Brandon. He helped us kind of understand what we could do with it, and also Ford, who is the director of conservation for First Light. We kind of all put our heads together and came up with what we just did today. But to start it, when you put bitterbrush or sagebrush in the ground in like a planting type of scenario, it takes a long time to get the seeds to the point of being ready to be planted in the dirt. So there's a lot of preparation and planning. We ended up applying for a grant in association with First Light through Idaho Department of Fish and Game that awarded us some monetary funds that allowed us to purchase 10,000 sagebrush seedlings. And
Wyoming, is it Wyoming?
yeah,
Wyoming greater sagebrush.
Yeah, something like that.
so we purchased 10,000 sagebrush seedlings, and then we purchased 1,600 bitterbrush, deer candy, a.k.a. deer candy. And recently we put it out to our VIP text group. If you're not a part of that, that's typically we're going to announce like different events. We're going to do giveaways, our sweepstakes. We are going to share exclusive content, merch drops, things like that. But we put 50 exclusive tickets out there in hopes to get people to come out and participate in helping plant these 11,600 plants. We were not quite sure how it was going to go, but the folks that listen to this podcast and watch our videos, you guys are amazing. So supportive. You have been for a lot of years. The tickets sold out exceptionally fast, within an hour or so. And we're like, holy cow, like this is amazing. And so today was finally the day where 50 people gathered with some people from First Light, our group, Camp Chef, a few others.
Some Fish and Game people, some BLM people showed up.
And we did the dang thing. We put
yeah, we did.
We put 11,600
600.
new plants in a part of very critical Idaho winter range, specifically for mule deer. Also holds elk, but really 6 different hunt units. The deer herds funnel down into this winter range. So it was hit with a fire back in 2011, and it was a hot fire. So it really scorched the landscape. And even though it's been a good 10 years, they're still lacking some critical nutrients, food sources of sagebrush, bitterbrush, etc. So that's what we did today. Brandon picked the zone, told us like how to use the dibble bars, walked everybody through exactly what we're doing, and we got it all in. And then we, by the way, gave away some goodies too for the folks that bought the tickets.
Did a raffle for $14,000 worth of gear from. We say this all the time, and hopefully it doesn't ever get old, but you guys listening to this podcast right now, you guys that follow us on social media, you guys that watch our YouTube videos, buy our merchandise, you guys are the reason that we're allowed to do what we do. But alongside that is we have absolutely amazing sponsors from people in the industry and companies that we've been very fortunate over the last, 10 years of doing this, that we kind of handpicked those companies to work with because, we always say this, like, we have to believe in their products first, but we also have to believe in the people behind those products. Because if we ever push something to you guys like, hey, you guys should use this backpack, you guys should use this camo, you should use this Camp Chef, whatever it might be, we want you to have the ultimate experience. We don't want that experience to be bad. So I think, done a very good job of picking the right partners, and they always show up.
Yeah, they do. They're
If
super
it's
supportive.
a movie premiere that we do before the expo in Salt Lake, or whatever we do like this, all our partners kicked in and were like, no brainer, here's a bunch of gear, like a rifle from Weatherby, a bow from Hoyt. Onyx kicked in a bunch of memberships. Everyone that showed up today and bought a ticket got a year-long membership to Onyx, and then they kicked in 5 lifetime memberships, which is huge.
Lifetime elite memberships.
Elite memberships.
Pretty incredible.
And so we were able to do a raffle, but our whole idea behind this was like Brian said, we were able to apply for a grant and got enough money last spring to buy all the plants for this year in hopes that we could sell enough tickets and get enough money off raffles. This can be a self-sustaining thing every year and hopefully grow it, that maybe we do 2 or 3 different projects every year. And, we're over in southern Idaho in the middle of the state. Maybe we can expand that next year to do 2 to 3 different projects and even move it into Utah eventually, where we can be doing these planting projects and conservation projects all over. It took a lot of things I don't love to do, which is like meetings, Zoom calls, conference calls, paperwork, and we just been thinking about this, and we're like, okay, we're going to sell 50 tickets for X amount of money. Hopefully, maybe we can sell 50 tickets, maybe not. But that whole process, led up to today, and it went absolutely flawless because 50 amazing people signed up to come out and do it. We put 11,600 plants in the ground, and we have enough money to
Do it next year.
do it next year
Yeah.
and hopefully grow it twice as big.
So we landed on the term, the phrase, the saying, brush for bucks, which we stole somewhat from the folks at First Light, but they agreed because we were we're partnering with them, that we would be able to, use the name and then do it again. So Brush for Bucks is the name of this habitat movement, and we were able to kind of come up with a pretty cool logo, some merchandise and branding. And for the people that didn't come to the event, or maybe you're hearing this and you're like, man, that sounds really cool, I'd love to help out, we've got like an exclusive Brush for Bucks decal that you can buy from our website, which is www.gethushin.com. It's a $100 decal, but I'll tell you, all $100 goes directly into the Brush for Bucks initiative. And to Casey's point, we want to be able to sustain this for years to come. We'd like to see it grow. This was like a trial run, so we learned a lot. I think overall, I'm happy and proud of how it went. I always come from the perspective of, if I paid to come out here and do this, was it worth my time and my money, and would I do it again? And I think overall, the feedback we heard today was really positive, and I certainly think folks had a great time. A lot of people won some cool stuff. One couple in particular really stands out that came all the way from Oregon, and they kind of cleaned house.
Dude. Bandits.
They
But
did well.
Going back to the phrase, though, you got to pay to play.
Yeah.
These guys drove from McMinnville, Oregon, which is 10+ hours.
Yeah.
Came over, wife and husband couple came over. They crushed it, helped us plant, and they purchased a bunch of raffle tickets.
Yep.
And when they did so, they won a bunch of great prizes.
They definitely did. And so that was fantastic. We were just talking, like, we love giving stuff away.
Yeah, it's like we had 50 people here, and literally, like, we had $14,000 worth of prizes. Not everybody won something, but we just feel like we were just like, I want to give you my truck. Like, I want to give you, like, I want all you guys in Camp Chef did a great job. They had hats, we had shirts, like, everyone got something. And so when you purchased your ticket to come over here, you got a Onyx Elite membership for a year, which costs what?
Like $100.
$100. You got, a very customized T-shirt, Brush for Bucks T-shirt, which we're never going to sell. You only get it if you come over, and then you got a raffle ticket in. So, I mean, they got their money's worth, but at the same time, like, people traveled. We had two different families come from just south of Seattle, which is a poke. We had those folks from McMinnville, Oregon. We had people from Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is like an 8-hour drive. We had people from northern Idaho, which was a 9-hour drive. We had a couple from Elko, Nevada. Like, we had people travel to come and do this, and that just says a lot about you guys. Like, you've been so supportive of our vision over the years, whatever it might be. If it's a movie premiere, if it's just watching our videos, to this, like, you guys are the reason, and we always harp on this, and hopefully you guys understand that you guys are the reason that we can do what we do, and we don't take that lightly. Like, we continually want to hit those 3 pillars in everything that we do. Those 3 things are our why of why we do Hush. And it's because of you guys that we're allowed to do this, and we can do these amazing things. But you guys always show up, and we couldn't be more appreciative of that.
I had a good conversation with Ford from First Light about that, because I came from a different kind of era, same kind of general platform. I came from a YouTube era where it was, you try to rally people, and it always was the kind of a no-show. But any time that we do something in the hunting community, like when you auctioned off your bow, when we've done these other things to kind of give back to the community, it is always outrageous to me how many people are willing to, like you said, show up.
Yeah.
And it's you guys listening to this in your car or at the gym or running or whatever you're doing. It's you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we do something like this, it's almost like the Tom Sawyer story, right? Where he's painting the fence and he tries to make it look cool, so everybody else comes paints the fence. It's like it's not a sexy thing. We're planting sagebrush.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing, but it's the camaraderie of it all.
Yeah, that's what was
community.
great, man. People met new friends today, no doubt.
100%.
I think anytime you give back or you do something where you're donating your time and your energy, or your money, frankly, but really your time, you just have such like a good feeling, right? You're doing something good. And the reality is, like, the sagebrush we planted today won't really come online where they're a viable source of food for a lot of years, honestly. Like, it takes a while. I think so. We were out there with Brandon and with Ford looking at an area they planted 2 years ago. And what I envisioned was, wow, these, like, really healthy, mature sagebrush, like, thriving.
Yeah, the big sagebrush that, like, you don't even recognize because it just looks like
You're just
sagebrush.
used to seeing it.
Those are exceptionally old sagebrush, 50, 75 years, 100-year-old sagebrush that we have all come to know. If you've ever hunted mule deer, if you've hunted maybe some upland birds, pronghorn, where it's just a sea of sage. But the ones that we just explored that were 2 years old are still really small. And they've got a long ways to go. But they're in the ground.
They're in the ground. And at this point, like Brandon explained, like, if they're here now,
They'll be here.
they'll be here. And so the way Brandon explains this, and he's done this a lot, is we planted 10,000 sagebrush seedlings today. Their hope, or what is expected, is 30% recovery.
So 3,000.
So 3,000. And that all depends on moisture and a bunch of different things. Like, they've done planting where they've had like 60% recovery. But typically it's 30% recovery. So we planted 10,000 plants today. And hopefully 3,000 of those take, and they'll be there in 2 years, just like we saw when we went and checked that plant spot. But we saw some plants today that were 2 years old that were actually seeding.
Yep.
Which is amazing because Brandon usually says like 3 to 4 years, those plants, if they survive, they'll start seeding, which means they'll start creating seeds and they'll start throwing seeds, which will create more sagebrush. So in 2 years, we saw a couple plants that were already seeding. Who knows what that's going to create?
But if you were to look at it from an untrained eye, you'd be like, wow, those things are so small. You're talking like 8 to 10 inch type plants.
You know what it reminded me of? So we went and did this whole planning, came back, did the raffle, had lunch, everyone left. Brandon and Ford were like, let's go look at those plants we did 2 years ago. And so me and Brian went up there with them. And we couldn't find them at first. And they had like waypoints on Onyx. And we started finding them. It reminded me of finding morel mushrooms.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, oh, there's one.
Yeah.
And you could literally see like where like they had planted these plants.
Really? You could
Oh yeah,
still
like
see
the
them?
indentions in
Yeah.
it. And Ford's like, I remember planting that one. Like, my big thing's the indention. It became fun. Like, oh, there's one. And we started finding them.
That's so
But
cool.
yeah, it is a long process.
It's again, where we at is a fire that took place in 2011, and
Yeah.
it's still not even close to recovered.
You kind of have to take a step back and look at the grand scheme of things, and that's why it's so important to pay it forward, because it's a time investment, right?
Yeah.
Like, where we're planting, there's not a ton of sage. Like, you go out and look, and it's just flat. There's grass growing and stuff, but there's not big sages.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it is, I mean, in 10 years from now, you got to pay it forward now so that in 10 years from now, that's why it's so important, I think.
No, I agree. Like, and like I didn't understand this until we went out with Ford and Brandon, just barely, and looked at these plants they planted 2 years ago, and we started asking them. I'm like, so like, look at that sage. Like, that's a smaller size sage. You know, like, how long did that take? And Brandon's like, oh, dude, that thing's been in the ground for 30 years. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is not even going to affect my lifestyle, like my lifetime.
Yeah.
But it will affect my kids.
Pay it forward.
My grandkids, their grandkids. Like, this stuff has to happen. This fire came through in 2011, like Brian said. It wiped out 40,000 acres. And so this unit that we're in, it's a famed unit in Idaho for big deer. It always has been, especially for the wintering grounds. In 2018, they came out and did an aerial flyby and counted the deer. They counted upwards of, I believe, 16,000, like 300. I can't remember the exact number. It was 16,000 deer. But these deer that are wintering in this one unit come from 6 different units to come and winter in this country. And so you burned up 40,000 acres back in 2011. That's a big chunk of wintering ground.
Yeah.
And you have that many deer coming in from 6 different units around. Like, this isn't just about like this spot. It's about all the spots around it. And what we learned tonight too, it's not just about the deer.
Yep.
Sage grouse. Like, sage grouse used to be heavy in this unit until that fire. Sage grouse rely on multiple things, but obviously sage is a big thing. They eat the sage. We learned something tonight from Ford. Sage grouse don't have
Gizzards.
Yep.
And so they can't like most birds, like pheasants, grouse, they have gizzards where they can actually eat seed, and then they'll actually go and eat small pebbles, and that will grind up, and they can digest that. Sage grouse don't have that, so they're relying on sagebrush leaves. They're relying on flowers. They're relying on a bunch of stuff. So before this fire, there was a bunch of sage grouse in this area. There's not anymore because of the fire.
Maybe that's where they get their name.
Probably.
There's a lot of dynamics, like how hot a fire burns is going to impact the recovery rate, whether it's a south-facing slope or a north-facing slope.
Exactly.
A lot of the north-facing slopes out here are doing quite well, but the south-facing slopes have exceptional amount of sun exposure, and in the summertime, like upwards of 100 degrees, and so
North slopes tend to hold moisture longer.
that's right. So there's a lot of variables that play into it, but I think the overall takeaway is it takes a lot of time to get a place recovered, especially if it was a really hot fire, because the hot fire is going to really just scorch the land down to nothing, and it's going to suck the nutrients out of the soil and just make it like much harder for natural recovery. Even when they do aerial seeding, it may not take. So it was a good thing that happened.
Dude,
and if any of you guys are listening that came out here and helped participate, thank you so much. You have no idea how much it means to us.
I mean, we had a group of people, an amazing group of people. It was hard work. For 3 hours, we were putting plants in the ground. The folks we had out today were absolutely amazing. Traveled from a long ways, and it's so crazy. When we had this idea, and we started coming up with this plan of selling tickets to hopefully promote or to obtain cash to do this next year, we're like, how are we going to do that? And Brian came up with the idea, let's sell tickets like we do at a movie premiere when we donate that money back to a good cause. And so we literally asked people to pay $100 to come out here and basically work for 3 hours, work their butts off. We were like, man, 50, we don't know. And we wanted to keep the number low this year just because we're trying to get our feet wet on the whole idea and whole planning. But we launched these tickets 2 weeks ago, which is super late in the program. And we're hoping and praying that this would take and people would be accepting of this. Literally sold out in an hour and a half.
And again, a lot of people, it wasn't a convenient trip. It was a long drive. And then they spent more money on the raffle.
Yeah.
So all that money is going back to conservation.
Yeah, so
100%.
every cent that we raised from this whole thing, which is kind of a cool thing, Ford brought this up, a lot of companies, and we've done a good job in the past of, we have conservation objectives. Every hat that we sell that has the First Light camo on it, $5 of every hat that we've ever sold for the last 6 years or however long we've been selling First Light hats goes back to a conservation project. We've always done a very good job of giving back and paying for other people doing cool things. But this is really the first time that we've actually put our boots on the ground, but that was the whole plan. You talked to people about doing conservation projects, and they're like, yeah, we want to help. Sometimes it's hard to find out how that
That's
happens, how you can help.
Where it really came about is we helped with a project in Utah back in, I want to say it was 2019, but we helped fund a chaining project. So essentially they cut down a bunch of junipers, and then with that essentially is it's a series of process, but they did aerial seeding, and then they had these two giant dozers with what's called an Ely chain, and then they kind of toss everything they just cut down, and it mixes up the aerial seeding. And then while these dozers are pulling the chain, they're also spitting out seed. So it's like a multi-layered approach of seeding, and essentially the junipers certainly create great cover for wild game, but they don't create good nutrients.
They don't allow great nutrients to grow.
We did that, and we did some Instagram stories, and we did one of those polls. Hey, what if we did a meet and greet conservation project? Would you be interested? And in Utah, with the dedicated hunter program, there's a lot of incentive to get out and do that. And certainly if we can put this together and make it happen in the state of Utah, a lot of people that are interested in the dedicated hunter program could come get credit for it. But that basically painted the vision for what we wanted to try to do. There's tons of great organizations that do awesome habitat work, awesome conservation work. But if you're not a member of those organizations, you might not be familiar with what's available. Some of them are smaller. They're just, local fish and game offices that are putting stuff together. And some of them are bigger, like your traditional RMEFs or what have you, and Mule Deer Foundation. But I thought, man, if we could just leverage this amazing community that we have already that's supported us through these movie premieres, through watching our videos, following us on social, I bet we could get a good amount of people to come participate. And that's where it started a few years ago, and it's finally, gotten to a point where it came to fruition. And I'm just super pumped with how it turned out, and I think what the potential is also.
That's a great callback, dude. That's in a Hushlife vlog.
It is, yeah.
I remember putting that together. It was cool.
Yeah. But that's where it starts, man. Like, there's so many people. We always say the hunting community is the greatest community, and I truly believe that. So many people willing and able to help.
Yeah.
It's just about, like, getting the right event put together where it can happen.
I think, like, to me, too, like, there was a lot of really cool things that happened today. Like, me and Matty Ice ran around and kind of did a little quick interview with everybody that was out planning, like, when they were in the process of planning. And that was really amazing. But I think, like, at the end of the day, one of the coolest things that happened today, besides we planted over 11,500 plants, is just the feeling I have right now. Like, do you guys feel that? Like, it's a good
Yeah,
and I've heard you talk about that before. Like, I don't want to feel selfish with giving back or whatever quotation, but, like, it's a good feeling to get out there. And the cool thing is, like you touched on earlier, is, maybe this won't affect my life, but, like, my kids, future generations, like, that resonates.
I think it's powerful, and we talk about it all the time, and I feel it all the time. With your guys' help, we've been able to do some really amazing things. If it's giving back to a boys' home, giving over $20,000 to a primary children's hospital out of Salt Lake, that's going to help a lot of kids through a movie premiere, or if it's taking our good buddy Daniel on his first ever elk hunt, and then doing this. Like, I do sometimes, like, take a step back and be like, man, are we being selfish to use our platform to do all these good things because it makes us feel so good? Like, it's a drug almost.
It's just like mid-planting with the dibble bars, just
it's
the
just like
camaraderie between everybody, being like, just making jokes and, helping the future deer population.
Yeah, I'm not going to get emotional because I usually always do, but, like, what we've been able to create with your guys' support is something pretty amazing, because it really does feel selfish at times, because we do these great things because of your guys' support to help good causes.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately, it is, my number one thing of what I love about Hush is just helping give back. If it's, conservation, if it's local charities, whatever it might be. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys at home, but, like, I feel selfish because we're allowed to do that, but I hope you guys feel that as well. It helps if you follow us on social media. It helps if you buy merchandise. It helps if you come out to one of these events or come out to a movie premiere. That all that stuff helps us do this. So I hope you guys feel this and understand what I'm trying to say. Guys, we have this crazy thing going on that we can continue to do this for a long time and do great things working together.
Yeah. Building a stronger community, coming together for a greater good, and I think it's very sustainable. Again, man, so many people over the years have been willing and able to help, and they've done it. They stepped up in a massive way in all the examples Casey just listed. And I think this is just the beginning of something that really will become like a cornerstone of our brand, and certainly looking forward to where it takes us. But what a great day, man. Like, we are very lucky just to be the conduit between people or causes that could use some help and people willing to help. We're the conduit. That's it. That's all we are. Like,
yeah.
I'm so fortunate for that. We have the right partners. We've got the right community of folks that have followed along so many years. And I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, I can't thank you guys enough at home. I'm just super humbled today. We get humbled a lot.
The wind's finally laying down, which is, boy, the one drawback, I'll tell you. We got pounded by the wind today.
It was a little bit windy, just...
a solid 20-30 sustain, gust of 40 all day.
Well, it would have been too perfect if it wasn't windy.
Otherwise, it was a beautiful sunny day, pretty warm temperature-wise, but the wind was unrelenting, and it'll just wear you out. But we're through it. I think she's laying down for the night.
My lips are chapped.
So spring activities are really full bore. Obviously, shed tours. Been up and running for some time now. We'll start dropping those videos here any day. We got some other fun stuff coming up, right?
Yeah, I would say we got a bunch of fun stuff coming up.
Lots of fun.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for, together as a group for,
7, 8
years. Like I said earlier, like, we struggle with planning sometimes. Like, we struggle with
Indeed.
planning early is what I should say. Like,
You
most
wanna-
companies that try to do this or that do this stuff, it's pretty laid out. We're always like, August, like, oh, we might have somewhat of a plan. Anyway,
Who's we, Casey?
Yeah.
me.
And
Me and Eric.
okay,
Pulls
thank
the
you.
rabbit out of the hat and
Thank
says,
you.
boom, what'd you think?
I agree with that most of the time. Sometimes you run late too.
Well, dude, you're rubbing off on me. I mean, I got 8 years of herding cats. What am I supposed to do?
You're late too. Like Matt was just asking about this turkey hunt, and you're like, yeah, it's supposed to happen like into May. We'll see. I was like,
Well,
Brian's on it.
That's just if we were to accompany some friends of ours. That's not us leading it.
Yeah.
Where were you going with this? though?
Where I'm going with this is this fall is actually shaping up that
Fall or spring? We're in spring.
spring and fall.
Okay, good.
Let's be honest. We have some bear hunts. We have some turkey hunts. They're already laid out. We have some elk hunts
Some elk
that are dialed.
hunts.
Axis deer.
We have some
Oh, yeah.
axis
Are
deer.
we going to Hawaii?
We have a plan to do
Maybe another
another
hunt giveaway.
What?
which is shaping up
Oh, man.
already.
It's coming along.
'Cause-
Listen, like if you followed us, then you might be familiar with the New Mexico elk hunt we gave away last year in the month of April and May. So, if we're on a calendar, you
It's about that time.
might or might not be
Might be
interested
about
in
that
paying
time.
attention
It's
here
about that
soon.
time.
If you're not on the VIP text list, I'd encourage you to jump
How
onto
can
that.
I get on that?
Well, just go to our website and you can sign up right on the old website. It's probably your easiest way.
www.gethushing.com.
But that's going to be a key point. So we got some cool stuff coming up.
In the pipe.
And here's the other thing. We've asked for some feedback, right? Like over the years, we want to try to keep the content and the videos fresh, new, exciting, different, but at the same time, edgy enough to like continue. So like, how do we do that? One of the things we've heard though is, man, I wish you guys would spend a little more time hunting as a unit, as a group. We did that last year in the New Mexico elk hunt giveaway. The hunt that we took Adam on. I also was lucky enough to have a tag. We had the OGs out, me and Casey and Eric, which the three of us had not been out together by ourselves.
For a while.
I mean, maybe since 2014, 15?
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah. Long time. And it was a riot. It was so much fun. We had a great time. I shot an amazing bull. But a lot of people have said, you guys need to get back to the old school days. And here's the reality. Like, it's not for a lack of anything other than trying to divide and conquer. If we all three are together, many cases we only have one tag in the group, sometimes two tags. Rarely do we all have three tags.
Yeah.
And so the time it would take to generate the content we have been generating for the last several years as we've divided and conquered our group of 5, we would have way less stuff to share. So it's kind of a trade-off, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question we always ask. Like, if we meet you guys at an expo or wherever, we're like, how could we do this better? And over the years, we've, like, changed it up. Like, we've done best season yet 3 years now, 4 years now. And we've, like, altered that every year according to, like, what the feedback we get from you. But, like, what we understand is, like, you want more feed or more content. But at the same time, you guys want more content with us together, which we understand. And so this year, like, that's why it's so exciting to me is, like, we have things lined up already that we are starting to plan. And we have elk hunts that are planned and certain things like that we're going to make a big commitment this year to do some of these really cool hunts that we have been fortunate to get this year as a group, as a team. And it's not just the 3 of us, it's the 5 of us.
exactly.
And so if the 3 of us are somewhere, Matty Ice and Logie Bear are going to be there with us. So we're super excited about how this year is shaping up. That there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think, every year presents its own unique challenges, and we're trying to navigate them the best we can. We have so much fun when we are all together. And I think the outcome of the videos have always shown that, just because the camaraderie's there, like the quality that Matt and Logan can produce when we're all together is incredible. But again, when we've historically done that in the past, then we only have a couple videos versus if we split up, we can get 3 times the amount. So we're working through it. It's certainly something that we're aware of and trying to figure out like what's the best solution. But I feel like Casey does, pretty excited about the year to come.
Yeah.
You as a viewer should be pretty excited too, because it's going to be.
I would
pretty
say
legit.
the phrase I would use is our team is stronger than us as individuals.
100%. Yeah.
And that means that the three of us are together and the two best camera guys in the industry are working together as a team, which is huge.
It is, yeah.
And so, yeah, I just plugged you guys.
There's a clap button.
You can
on
say
here.
hi if you want, man.
No, that was a joke. Yeah, that's us,
Okay.
me and Matt. Those are
Anyway,
applause.
yeah, we're excited about this year, like we are every year. But it's just really coming together this year that like it might be something special.
It could be, yeah. And who knows? We still have results to be determined.
Yeah, there's only
We're
been one state that's come out, and
there's been a couple states that have started to materialize, but we've got some more opportunities in our future that could happen. I'm not saying they will. We're not expecting anything, but you just never know.
shut your face.
What?
You don't expect, but it always happens to you.
I wouldn't say always. It's happened a couple times, but I'm also
A couple
probably
times every year for the last few years.
I put in probably more places than anybody.
Here's the thing I want to bring up. Like, a lot of times people are like, how you guys get so many tags? Like, are you guys, like, this thing in Idaho with my kids drew a couple of good tags in, like, 3 consecutive years. My daughter drew an elk tag and then a moose tag, and they're like, why is Hush guys always drawing tags? Here's the answer to that. We do our due diligence most of the time. Me and Eric struggle sometimes with a few states. But we put in for every Western state every year.
Yeah.
Like, we've done a really good job of just building points or just putting ourselves, like, our name in the hat. Like, we always say that with, like, giveaways. Like, if you're going to draw a tag, you have to put your name in the hat. Yeah. And so the 5 of us are putting in for most Western states and have been for years and years and years. So eventually, like, you're going to have a couple of years that you're going to have some really stellar tags just because you did your due diligence. And I think we're starting to experience that a little bit right now and have been for the last year or two.
I mean, that's the difference, too, with some of the tags I've gotten. It's just I was in the game earlier than you and Eric.
Yeah.
Well, some of the times, too, you got to imagine one guy putting in for these tags, and then you got to 5x your odds.
Yeah, we have 5 people putting in for these states every year. Like, we're bound. Like, it's just like if you were put in for a party hunt and you guys draw one year, like, everyone gets a tag. Well, it's opposite, but we're all putting in 5 people putting in for every state that we can for a consecutive period of time. Like, we're bound to draw some good tags, and that's finally, like, starting to come into fruition.
Yeah, when I started doing this when I was 22, now I'm 45. No, it hasn't been that long, but
Well, you just aged yourself,
Wow.
Brian.
Brian could be your grandpa.
I've got some states that I'm starting to really have like a high level of points,
And that's awesome.
which is, in a way, it's like sad because you
Yeah.
have to have that amount of time built up. Well, I was talking about this with a few guys today. I don't like the point system across the West.
I agree.
And I don't like it because if you weren't lucky enough to be alive when that thing started and at a point in time in your life when you could afford it or be aware of it, you're out. You're literally out. Like, your odds of drawing a tag in so many of these Western states are 0 almost.
Like, you almost know the year you're going to draw the tag.
Or the year you'll never draw it.
Exactly.
Because with point creep, it just continues to compound and get harder and harder and
Which
harder.
is happening more and more every year in every state.
And yet, in the state of Idaho and also the state of New Mexico, there's not a point system. It is a lottery. And I think the argument some people have is there's a lot of people that are trying to get rid of that in Idaho and New Mexico and go to a point system.
No.
And I think their theory is like, well, those amazing hunt units, I'd like be able to eventually draw. But I don't think, from what I know, like, your odds are not going to change. They're going to be difficult. If it's a desired unit for a deer or an elk hunt, it's going to continue to expect to see the same type of applications, right? Like, a lot of people are going to put in for it, which means based on the tag allocation, you're just not going to have that great of a chance to draw. But with the randomness of Idaho and New Mexico, you at least have a chance if you're new to the game.
Bro,
I think there could be a hybrid to where some of these more coveted tags, like your bighorn sheep or your moose or mountain goat,
point system.
you can't draw it till maybe you're 18 or 21 years old. I think that would be a way to level the playing field, because I think some of those people's arguments are, well, there's going to be a 12-year-old that draws a bighorn tag, doesn't even necessarily want to be there or know what he's got.
And I've been
versus-
putting in for 30 years.
Yeah.
But my argument to that would be, you guys know where we stand. We try to get youth involved.
Yeah.
If a 12-year-old draws that sheep tag and
It
he
could
might not
change.
want to be there beforehand, that might change. Here's, like, I agree with both these statements. The argument I would understand is the people with 23, 24, 25 points in Utah that haven't drawn a tag in that many years, it sucks. It really does.
And they might not still,
And they might not for years to come.
which is crazy.
But in my head, the reason I love Idaho and New Mexico, New Mexico has been tough on non-residents for the last 5 or 6 years.
Not to me.
But at the same time, so if you guys don't know, like, I met Brian through a draw hunt that I drew back in 2012.
12, yeah.
Brian drew a certain tag 2 years in a row, basically, down in New Mexico. And then the first 2 years he ever put in for, and then I drew it the first year I ever put in for, and we met through a mutual friend. Anyway, and then when Eric came on board with Hush, we told him to put in for this unit. He drew the first year he put in, and then last year we did the hunt giveaway, so we just all put in, hopefully that we could draw a tag and then have to buy it like a landowner tag. And Logan put in for the first time. He drew the tag.
Big fan of the lottery system.
I am too. Like, I love the fact that Idaho, which is my home state, that I put in every year, and I have no points. No one has points. And I haven't drawn an Idaho tag for years. My kids draw them all the time. But I know every year I have the same exact chance as the next guy putting in.
Yeah.
I love that.
And there is some strategy to that. I mean,
For sure.
you can look at some of the units and, like, you can look at percentage draw. Like, there's some units out there that maybe this year it's a 2% draw, but next year it's a 12% draw, and you just got to keep your eye on that. Like, there's strategy to both. I mean,
It's
like,
like-
you can play the point game, play those strategies, and say, hey, this unit's only going to require 10 points. Well, I'm guaranteed to draw. Boom, put in, do that. And then you can look at Idaho or New Mexico or other lottery states and then just really keep track of the percentage draw and then play those.
And it
odds.
changes every year. Like the year Braley drew a really coveted elk tag that I've been putting in for pretty much all my life for a rifle tag. Never drawn it. Put her in the first year, she drew it, which was super just luck of the draw. And then next year, so in Idaho, if you draw an elk tag, you have to sit out a year to put in for elk again, or deer or antelope. But so after she killed her big bull, she's like, Dad, I think I want to hunt moose. I'm like, yeah, babe, everyone wants to hunt moose. Like, get in line. I've been putting in all my life. I have all these points in Utah. I put in multiple times in Idaho. And so I put her in for moose, and then she drew it the first year. And everyone's like, oh, that's not fair. How did she draw it? Like,
And then-
local people.
Yeah.
And then I went and looked at the odds, and I was like, these are like some of the best odds for moose anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They literally gave out 5 tags, and there was like 45 people put in. She had better than a 10% chance of drawing a moose tag, which is unheard of for moose anywhere.
That's the strategy you got to play.
And that's what I like. I like that. I like the fact of knowing, like, even if you don't do your research and you put in for a hard tag, you have the same exact chance of drawing that tag as somebody that's been putting in for 30 years. And that's where people go astray and be like, I've been putting in for this tag for 30 years. Like, rebuttal would be like, well, if you want an elk tag that bad, like, do your research and put in for an easier one to draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have drawn this other tag, like, maybe
That's
10 times
Yeah.
in 30 years.
That's where the strategy comes in.
Yeah.
You got to look at percentage draw odds from the year previous, and then perhaps.
But I like
it's
the
gonna be
fact of, like,
close.
this unit we're in, like, is one of the hardest deer tags to draw in the state. Like, I never put in for it, but I could put in for it next year and draw it.
We could all draw it.
Yeah.
We could draw it for the next 10 years in a row. That's the lottery system.
So it's a heated debate about points or no points, but I just think at the end of the day, you have to have your name in the hat to draw, no matter if there's points or no points. Because even in states of like Utah, people with 0 points draw tags every year.
They do. There's a small percentage of those tags that get drawn, but it's there. It's just not as good as it would be if it was a pure lottery,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I've got 17 points in one state in particular, and it's not going to get me anything for quite a while as a non-resident.
Yeah.
But
And so you're not like
you
every
know.
year you're not counting on that, right?
not at all. I
And
mean,
you're just
I
like
eventually, I literally have no chance to draw
Yeah.
the tag that I want.
I
right
think
now?
that sucks.
But that's why I'm just like not set on this point system, because if you're older than 40 and were around when they instituted these, like in maybe the early 90s, you're sitting pretty solid if you've been participating this whole time.
Yeah.
But again, like if your kid or your grandkid or a friend of yours that's brand new to hunting wants to try to get in on the game, they're just not in at all, ever.
Yeah.
With point creep, they're never going to draw one of these quote unquote, better tags. Now, they might be able to pick up a general tag or a less desirable tag or a cow tag, but they're not really in the mix. And that's what's like unfortunate about some of the systems. And yeah, you're going to potentially alienate, if you were to change it, a bunch of people who have been financially contributing to these systems for a lot of years. But like, gosh, what's the right? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. But
I would say that a valid point though too that we should bring up real quick is don't just hang your hat on draw tags.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important thing. And then, like when people come up to me at the expo and be like, "Hey man, I want to hunt elk. Like, what's a good strategy to go about doing it?" I'm like, find a state, and there's a couple of them out there.
Find an opportunity.
An opportunity tag that you can hunt every year.
Yeah.
And maybe you're putting in for Utah, and it might take you 20 years, but. And I've seen this happen. Like, I lived in Utah for a number of years after I met my wife, and I knew numerous people that were like, I've never hunted elk, but I've got 15 points for elk, and one day I'm going to draw one. I'm like, well, one day you might draw that elk tag. Are you going to know how to hunt elk?
What's your notebook say? Like,
Yeah.
What's your notes?
So if you're wanting to hunt, I would look at opportunities more so than, like, hopefully drawing a tag. Continue to put in for those draw tags, but find a state that you can hunt every year and you can learn that country. That's more important than anything, is being able to hunt
100%.
the same place every year for like 10 years, maybe 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can learn the herd movements, you can learn what the elk do, like what the deer do, like where the good spots are, where the bad spots are. But more importantly than like trying to draw a draw tag is get out and hunt.
Yeah.
No one's getting younger. Like, find an opportunity state and go out and hunt. And hopefully one day you draw a really cool draw tag that you'll have a chance at a big bull. But if it's about hunting, which it should be, go and hunt every year and find a place that you can do that.
It's all about the opportunity. Bottom line, you have to be in the field. Like, I know there's a fistful of over-the-counter units that you could hunt and like hunt religiously every year and just play it into your Rolodex of hunts for that year. And when you learn that terrain and you become the guy that knows that terrain, follows the patterns, follows the movement, you can kill a big animal every year.
There's plenty of deer and elk to go around.
Yeah, it's like you got to get boots on the ground. You got to understand movements. You got to hunt every year. You can't be the guy that's just in that point system being like, oh, it's my 15th year, my 16th year, my 17th year. I'm going to draw that 30-point tag and max points. I'm going to go crush a 420-inch bull. It's not how it works.
Well, and that's always been our program is, we cross our fingers for the draws in all the states we put in for. And like I said earlier, we put in for a lot. But majority of the time, like what you guys see is just tags we're able to obtain. And it's not through a draw system. And some of the biggest bulls we've ever killed on camera have been through a DIY over-the-counter tag. And I think the way you should go about it is figure out how you can hunt every year, and then start putting in for tags, and hopefully one day that will happen for you.
The other component here is so much can change in drawing a coveted tag, right, that you might be chasing. From winter kill to fire to just drought, weather, health of the deer, elk herd.
Tag allocation.
Yeah, you name it. There's just a lot of opportunities to change
changing.
where, you may be chasing this particular tag that at one point in time was amazing. And then by the time you actually get into play with it, it might not be that great anymore. We see that happen a lot.
Yeah.
Where a specific unit or area is just this coveted mule deer or elk spot. And then over the course of 5 years, it's just not what it was. And it may recover. But those are some of the kind of things you're kind of hedging your bet on is, man, which one is going to be the great one or not?
And we're back, you guys. Sorry, we had to take a quick break, but we're back. Tag allocation, where were we at?
We're over with that.
Okay.
Well, now we've moved on. Matt and I are trying to talk, and Eric for that matter, are trying to talk Logan and Casey into relocating from Pocatello, Idaho, to Utah.
Should we go back into tag allocations?
No, let's go back into home allocations.
It's super cheap in Idaho.
In comparison.
So here's the reality. The challenges of our business currently, we're not all in the same place
No.
at all. Not even close.
There's a slight disconnect sometimes that I think that occurs that could be diverted if we were all together.
The dream is we're all working out of the same roof. Like we have a shared warehouse or office, or
Fantasy factory.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with just like homes in the same state that are within 40 minutes of each other. Not 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, it is a terrible drive. I hate driving to Salt Lake. But at the same time, there's a reason the internet was connected.
Yeah.
We have Zoom.
Yeah.
I get it though. Like ultimately,
You remember what Casey said earlier?
best case scenario.
Hates Zoom calls.
I do hate Zoom calls.
That was a bad thing to bring up.
Best case scenario, we would all be within 30 minutes of each other, and we could, on a daily basis, connect
Yeah,
in an office.
100%. So, by a show of hands, where should we move?
Idaho.
Matt,
I like Utah.
why? I want to hear your arguments.
My-
Let's hear it.
Well, I guess my arguments would be I'm comfortable where I'm at,
That's a bad
That's,
answer.
that's not a great answer.
I know.
That's everybody's argument.
But for my argument, my hunting zones that I like, I can almost guarantee I can find a 180-inch mule deer and a 330 to 350-inch elk every single year.
Well, yeah, that sounds like awesome.
Over the counter DIY.
How many of those have you killed?
None.
How many of those years have I actually been able to hunt more than
That's
a
true.
few days?
Yeah.
How many years can you get a tag for those units?
I've had both tags every year as long as I've
But-
been alive.
So
Hey.
you live in a special place. Here's the problem with Utah. Is, if you guys don't understand, there's not really an over-the-counter tag in Utah per se.
There's elk.
Elk. But now they're trying to limit those.
Yeah, but it didn't pass. But yeah, I get
But
what
that's
you're saying.
that's the direction they're going. Even their general season rifle deer tags, which I think in every state should just be a thing that you can buy every year, people are waiting 3 years to draw those general season deer tags
Living
because
in
it's now a
Utah.
draw system. living in
Just
Utah.
like in Idaho, though, it depends on the unit. Certain
Not if you're a
units-
resident, bro. That's the difference.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Idaho did go did cut non-resident tags back the last
Yeah,
couple
they-
of years,
they
and
have.
it does suck. For
Salt
non-resident.
Lake has a
Non-resident.
much better airport.
Yeah.
That's a good argument.
I have never
point
killed.
for Salt
I've never
Lake.
killed a deer on the airport though.
No, but you have in other states that you've flown to.
Yeah.
That is a valid fact.
Here's the thing with Idaho, and I tell people, maybe I've told too many people this. Maybe I shouldn't tell you this. It's really, well, until now, as a resident,
It's great.
it's probably one of the better. I would say there's 2 states up there with Idaho, 3, that if you're a resident, it's awesome.
Yeah, Wyoming is amazing.
Wyoming's amazing. Montana's amazing.
Montana,
Idaho's amazing.
Idaho, yeah.
Colorado, maybe.
Probably decent.
But Idaho, I know every year I can go buy an over-the-counter elk tag. I can actually go buy 2 elk tags every year.
It's crazy.
And I can hunt, and you have to pick a unit, but you can hunt depending on what tag, if you're an archery hunter or rifle hunter. But I'm an archery hunter, so I can literally go and buy a tag in a unit that I choose to hunt in for probably 70% of the state every year. Now I'll have that tag. And what I was saying earlier is hunt a unit you can hunt every year. Anyway, our conundrum is we would really like the 5 of us to come together in a certain state, a certain place.
What do you think? What's Eric's vote?
He's not leaving.
He's gonna say, "No, bro. All my zones are down south,
Maybe he would move to a
St.
southern
George.
state. I don't know.
southern state." He probably would. He would probably. I think he was talking about St. George the other day because they got
But
mild
it's
winters.
kind of his jam though. Like he loves hot weather, which I
Yeah.
hate. He likes to be in a tank top, which I'm not in a tank top much. But it would make sense for him.
Yeah,
But then he's
just in the winter months, he said.
he's just moving further. Here's our biggest problem with our business which is a very small problem. we live 2.5 hours away from each other, which is nothing.
Yeah.
But if we were closer, if we lived in a subdivision together.
Oh, hey-o.
I live in a subdivision. You live in a subdivision. Eric, Logie. Matt's kind of out in the boonies.
See, I'm a huge fan of compromise. That's something that my wife has taught me at this young age of marriage.
Shout out to Aubrey.
Is everything has to compromise. Like, one person can't always have the say and get to make the calls all the time. So even
Matt,
though
take the back seat and let us make the say.
even though I love where I live and everything there, like, if you guys compromise a certain distance, I'd be willing to compromise the other distance. So
here's my bottom line. I know if we're compromising at this point, I know, like, hunting for me and my wife wants to move back to Utah. That's where she's from. And my argument against that is the same arguments I just brought up. Hunting and fishing. And she's like, really? Like, that's what's going to decide where we live? I'm like, it's kind of a big deal. But at the same time, I love hunting. But, dude, I live in a really killer spot to go do some fly fishing.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
There's convenience to get to certain places.
within an hour, I'm in, like, the best waters in the world to fly fish. Provo River, not so much anymore.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that at all. I can't disagree with you at all. However, our business
I wish you could
headquarters
see Brian's face right now. It's super serious.
are nowhere near where you're talking about.
Yeah.
I.e., our warehouse, our customer service, our fulfillment, all the things that support our business. Kind of closer to Eric and I.
This is what I'm a fan on. Whether we find a spot or not, if we can just all find that spot and get together and build this fantasy factory quotation along the way, and we all have a place that we can convene and bang our heads together, it's going to be perfect. And I think even if we do find a spot and we end up building a place, we document all of it, and everybody listening, everybody that watches us would love to see that. Bottom line, like, just the antics that would happen in the office every day. Like, think about how nice it would be where it's like, all right, us two are going fishing, you two are staying here. Like, just everybody convene together.
How many toolbox camera storage things could we have?
Dude, my pegboard's so big in my mind right now of how our camera cage is going to look.
So this is me compromising. I agree with this. I agree with all this. I'm very stern about living in Idaho because I like Idaho. But the antics that goes on in Hush North that we don't ever film
I know.
is a lot. Just imagine having Logan and Matt in an office together every day.
the creativity that could go down.
That's my guy.
How many old trucks would we own?
We'd be down so many different genres of YouTube.
Dude, I would need a 2-post lift in the corner. I could just do all the mechanics and just
wait until we get a skiddy, bro.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the skiddy committee comes together.
Yeah.
Just driving that skid steer.
Build track sleds for
Maybe
everyone.
this is why I'm like kind of held up. Like, it's good when we come together, but maybe not every day.
Dude, you don't even know what it's like to work in an office with me, boys. All right? None of this,
Yeah.
the skiddy committee ain't happening from 9 to 5, all right?
Just hammer down.
Like,
Dad is in the building.
Hey, Dad, we built a Can-Am track.
We got stuff to do.
Is throwing rope going to be a thing when Brian's in the office?
Yeah.
No. I can't just openly throw ropes at you.
It's a Hush North thing. You'd have to be there.
Anyway, guys, we've always talked about obviously coming together, getting in a closer location, and building an office similar maybe to like Guggen Squad or somebody like that, where we can literally like create content there and all be together, which
Yeah.
I think is important.
Maybe the solution is we just have got to pick a new neutral site.
Yeah.
We pick a few states and throw on the dartboard. I see Matt just like squirming of the idea of leaving Utah.
There's
I would say
So let's say this:
the hardest
you
sell.
can't pick Idaho and you can't pick Utah. Logan, your top state.
Montana.
Matt.
Wyoming.
Man, I'm torn. Like I would have said Bozeman 10 years ago or like 5 years ago. I could do Sheridan, Wyoming.
Man, I'm with Logan. I'm
Montana.
Montana.
Bozeman?
Eric would be the tiebreaker.
I
He's gonna
still
say
need
Arizona or New Mexico or something.
Yeah.
I'm a guy that needs a sizable airport to get in and out of.
Well, if we move to Sheridan,
There's no airport.
but we know 2 pilots.
Not good enough.
Not like on
Adam
our schedule.
Weatherby or Ben Rogers will fly us
Dude,
to the nearest one.
I think Montana would be freaking. It's the place, man. It's the bee's knees. I think the opportunities there for everything, even talking fishing.
Yep.
I think opportunities there for residents. I think
think
Montana's my jam.
I think it's definitely more like publicized. I think there's more like hidden gems in Wyoming.
100%. I don't disagree with that. However, there's just some of the amenities that bigger cities
I
offer
agree.
don't exist in
Well,
Wyoming, right?
there's
which
more
is a
things
draw
that
for
we have to
some
consider
people.
than just what we're talking about. Obviously, Brian's wife is a corporate
Our
lady
kids,
that
high
works for a big
schools.
company that has to have that.
Yep.
Obviously, my wife probably wouldn't love Sheridan, Wyoming.
Yep.
If there's not a Target close by. So there's more, and my kids, obviously, my daughter's going to graduate high school and go to college here shortly. Bozeman would be great for my son Gage. They have a phenomenal lacrosse program, which he would be down with. So I'd go Bozeman.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
God, I know
another
it's
guy.
terrible.
It's expensive like
I'm not
everything
even
else.
saying.
I'm not saying
I'm
Bozeman
with Casey
either.
though. Like Bozeman, like 5, 6, 7 years ago was amazing.
It's a gem.
Okay.
We literally had our wives
Yeah.
talked into moving to Bozeman.
When we went and visited Randy Newberg back in like 2014.
Yeah, when we were up there at the Total Archery Challenge.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
I don't want to put this spot on the map, or I don't think we're going to, but Dearborn, Montana.
Is it Dearborn or Deer Lodge?
Dearborn. Trust me, I've done research.
We drove through there years ago, me,
Dude,
you, Eric, on
it-
our way to Canada,
It's not
and
that
it
far
looked
out
amazing.
of Bozeman. It's not that far from the airport. It's amazing. It is amazing. There's a fly stream right there.
Anyway,
The debate continues.
the debate definitely will continue, and hopefully not for too much longer. It would honestly like change our dynamic.
Yeah. it would
What,
change
what
the
do you
game.
guys think? Where do you guys live? Where would you want to see us end up?
Don't
and maybe
say
we just
Florida.
get crazy.
Texas?
Dude,
It's not bad.
Texas is cool.
But if I can't drive,
I know.
Maui.
if I can't
No,
drive and like
that's not our
be in
vibe.
Elkwoods, it'd be hard.
I need mountains.
I need mountains.
I've
for
found
sure.
out that.
I
I've
lived
been-
in Texas for 2 summers and I loved it,
Yeah.
but I was there for like 4 months at a time. But I need mountains.
Over the years of my life, I've lived in Washington and Oregon. I've lived in Minnesota and Arizona and Utah. And I need mountains.
Yeah.
I'm telling you boys right now, like,
Logan's looking it up because he's
It's-
not confident in his name.
no, I am. I'm just trying to find a picture that's going to
I just
sell
remember
you boys
driving through there.
on Dearborn, Montana.
That's
Ooh,
Photoshop.
And I don't even know what river
No,
it was.
it's
And
the Dearborn River.
highway
It's-
drives by the river, and there was all these people out on drift boats fly fishing. And I was
Dang,
like,
that's pretty.
I'm
That's
going to
a-
come here
dude,
one day.
Dearborn has a population that's low, too. It's not no Bozeman. It's not no Jackson. It's not no McCall.
I'm surprised nobody mentioned Colorado. That's interesting.
Yeah, Colorado might be a spot. It could be a
Dearborn's
spot for
bee's
sure.
knees.
It takes a lot. It's a lot of logistics. We got a lot
Yeah.
of other tentacles to besides just the 5 of us.
Yeah, it's not just up to us at this point.
Yeah, it's really not. It's one of those things too. Growing up, you're younger. You kind of starting to figure out like, man, where do I want to live? Especially if you ventured out beyond like maybe your home range where you grew up, seeing some different country. Maybe you went to college somewhere. So it's like, where would I want to live if I could live anywhere and it didn't matter?
You're kind of like the exception to the rest of us at this point. If I'm like
Yeah,
super analyzing this,
For
because
sure.
I grew up most of my life in Pocatello,
Yep.
Idaho. You know, I lived in Utah when I was a super young child, moved to Arizona for my dad to finish up college, and then when I was 7 years old, I moved to Pocatello, lived there until I was 17, and moved to Utah, lived in California, Southern California, LA, and then moved back to Idaho. But when I left Idaho, when I was a senior in high school, I said, I'll never move back here. It's too small of a town. Now I have a family. I live there. It feels comfortable. All my family lives there. I like
C word, Logan.
the location. Logan lives in Pocatello. He lived in Pocatello most of his life. Moved to Utah for a couple years. Came back. Matt has lived in Utah. You know, a couple different
life.
spots.
Yeah.
Eric's lived in Utah. Born in California. Lived in Utah most of his life. You're the exception, though.
Yeah.
Like, you grew up in. You were born in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Moved to
Washington,
and then pretty much grew up in Oregon,
Yep.
and then went to college,
Arizona,
and then had an internship in Minneapolis, went back to Oregon, where you met your wife, and now you're in Salt Lake, which that's the exception of the rule. Like, you're kind of living outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think it's one of those deals. If you've grown up in the same city you've lived in your whole entire life, there is comfort there. The C word, comfort, is there, right? You have friends, you have family. It's comfortable. But I'll tell you, leaving is something I would encourage every person to do once in their life.
You guys want to get crazy? You want to talk about residency pluses? Let's just pack up shop, move to AK. You want to talk
Dude, I've
about?
thought about that a
You want
lot.
to talk about
Wow.
getting crazy?
Yeah, right.
Getting residency privileges.
Some good fishing.
Like we said earlier, we have other people
Yeah.
that are going to have opinions on this. But Corey has a store up there.
She does.
Yeah.
She absolutely does.
Dude, we moved to Anchorage AK. We could go halibut. We got buddies.
Oh,
We got plugs.
there's a. We
That's a
need
lot.
Matt to become a pilot because I feel like he's the most capable of the group to become a pilot.
I'll be your co-pilot.
Okay, I'll fly.
I'll do it. I love,
Dude,
I love
you're dialed,
birds.
I
Matt.
drive a track sled.
I love birds.
Matt's like the most mechanically inclined, I would say, out of the group. Logan's a close second.
That statement makes me want to have a build-off with me and Matt.
Dude, I know more about freaking wrenches than these two.
Who's this guy coming from my
Dude.
field into this
I
right
used to
now?
work on semi-trucks.
That was a long time ago, and I'm confident that Logan and Matt would build all over you.
We're having a build-off now.
Matt literally fixed your rear view mirror
He
that's
did.
been broken for 2 years
It was pretty impressive.
on this side of the jumping jack in the middle of nowhere.
In like 20 minutes.
Yeah, he crushed it. You've had duct tape on that thing for at least, what?
Oh,
I watched a video
2
on how
years?
to do it like 2 years ago. I was like, I might could do that.
But I would put my money on Matt to be the best pilot
Well, kind of, yeah, I would too.
because he could
I would
fix
too.
the plane.
Well, Matt's not scared of flying. I am.
Yeah. I just felt
I
don't know.
just
Logan can
Some bold
remodel a
statement.
house like a mother. He can fix cars. So he's also exceptionally mechanically inclined. Way more so than Casey, myself, or Eric.
Well, let's do
So,
something. Let's
Matt,
have a
I guess you
a
guys are
bearing
probably
pack off.
pretty
All right.
even.
No, let's. Okay, we could do this. We get a car. You do something to Matt's truck tomorrow that makes it not run.
I've got an idea. You guys can.
We each have 30 minutes to figure it out.
I've
but
got
it's
20
Matt's
pounds
truck.
of sugar. I can do that real quick.
I got an idea. You guys can remodel my basement, and whoever does it fastest wins.
Bro, my tile skills have gone 0 to 100. real
I'm on
quick.
your side now.
Right?
I have. I want to put new bumpers on my truck. Let's see who can do it the fastest.
Matt's
I
got
got
body
that
and
one.
work.
Matt, you're starting first.
I got mechanical work. I'm good with the engine.
Matt's
Guys,
more
anyways,
body work.
this podcast has gone right, but we love it.
Super rough.
We just wanted to do a
All-
podcast.
All in all, we planted a bunch of seedlings and we're going to move to Alaska. And Eric, happy birthday.
Who knows? Yeah. Anyway, we just wanted to jump on here, do a new podcast. We're going to be more consistent with them. We know you guys like them. We get the feedback. We hear the feedback. Let us know if you guys want to hear something. Get a guest on. But, dude, we have these conversations every night when we're together, out camping, out hunting. And we hope you guys liked it. It was kind of like here, there, and everywhere else. But
A little bit of everything.
That's what we wanted to do. Just
Yeah.
sit and talk.
It's been one of my favorites. That we've
Yeah,
done
I think it's
together.
great. We've got a bunch of hunt stories we want to share, where we dive deep on some of our most favorite hunts. You know, like showing the video, they're edited, they're abbreviated. There's a lot more story behind so many of the hunts that we have captured on film. So we have a goal to walk through some of the hunt stories, from the Fire Bull to Braley's Bull to my Wyoming Bull to Logan's first bull. There's a ton of stuff historically that we've been able to capture, and we want to dive deep on those. And I think they'd make for some entertaining podcasts. We've never done it before, but we're going to give it a go. So stay tuned for those to come in the future.
Yeah, I would say this platform, the way we look at it is, we try to capture everything we can. If it's from like a super cool edited hunt to a vlog, this platform, though, this podcast allows us just to sit down and just talk amongst ourselves about certain things like hunts and really dive deep into them. Maybe things that like you guys didn't understand or we didn't talk about on hunt, but we're going to do more of these. We're going to do more of these and be more consistent on the podcast. But once again, guys, thanks again for all your support. We can't tell you enough how much we appreciate it and how much it means to us, and you guys allow us to do all these cool things like we just did today, and it's because of you guys.
Love you guys.
On that note, we'll see you on the next one, like October.
Adios.
Hopefully sooner than that. See you guys. Bye.